And welcome to the Lords of Loud podcast. We're just four guys who enjoy a good debate about music. We thought we'd move our rants and discussions into the podcast era. I'm Lord Ben, Lord of the Lords. I'm the Walrus. As always with me I have Lord Brett, he is the Eggman. Lord Kev, he is the Scotch Eggman. And Lord Al, he's the Eggplant. Lords of Loud. And welcome back to the Lords of Loud. And on tonight's episode, we're talking about great musical rivalries. And, you know, they don't get much bigger than Blur versus Oasis.
Kapow.
The Britpop
Boom.
classic bands that...
the Battle of Britpop.
Went head-to-head in the early to mid to late 90s, really. So that's going to be our topic tonight. But before we do that, we need to do an album of the week. And I've got an album of the week this week.
Oh, good on you, Ben.
Nice.
Yeah. What is it, mate?
And in a blatant attempt to broaden our demographic, I've gone with Charlie XCX's latest album, and I think it's just called Charlie. Mm-hmm. So she's
What's that about, then?
she's a contemporary pop artist. Does a lot of collaborations with some of the other artists that are sort of out at the moment, but this is her latest release. I think she's had maybe 2 or 3 studio albums before this. And if anyone likes good contemporary pop music, sort of cutting edge pop, this is quite a good album for those sort of people. If you like sort of Haim or Haim, as it's supposed to be pronounced, or sort of even some of the Taylor Swift's sort of better pop songs, then I would suggest you check out Charlie XCX's latest full release. Actually, Haim guests on one of the tracks on this as well.
So. I believe it's Haim.
Haim. Yeah.
And it's a great story, great success story of hers, for someone who's brought themselves up by their own, desire to perform and to create. She's not a manufactured thing.
No. She did. Well, she started doing a lot of writing for other acts, and then she'd do like a featuring her on certain tracks and things, and then
hugely precocious. Very young.
No,
so
this is
Charlie XEX.
XCX? XCX, yeah.
So is that just like letters of the alphabet?
It's Roman numerals, mate.
Right, XCX.
Yeah.
So now that we've broadened our demographic from 2 people to 3 people,
that's
those
right.
3 people to jump on Facebook and let us know what they think about that album.
What do you think about that album? Please tell us on Facebook. Yes, very good. And without further ado, let's see today's sponsor, which is the album called The Synthesizer Sound Machine.
Fantastic.
And this is released on Sonic. It's part of the Golden Groove series, and this is just all synthesizer.
Yes.
And in fact, I think you'll find this is just Moog synthesizer.
Mm-hmm.
We've got
just looking at the album cover, it looks pre-80s. Or,
it's a 70s. It's a 70s.
It's not quite. You wouldn't say it's part of the Me Too movement, what's on the cover here.
No.
But we've certainly got some classics on here, such as Popcorn.
This girl? Is she sitting in Popcorn?
She's sitting in Popcorn. Yeah.
Because my wife would love that.
Yeah.
Because she loves popcorn.
Sure.
Yeah. The song, the food, sitting in it, the whole thing.
So this has got...
Because Popcorn was the breakthrough song...
On synthesizer.
On synthesizer.
Right. Yeah. Any synthesizer record worth its salt needs to have a version of Popcorn on there.
Yes.
But the
does that song go to Popcorn?
became something much greater than that.
But
now
for this album, they actually tackle other things such as they do House of the Rising Sun. They also butcher a version of Ghost Riders in the Sky. Yes. So
did I see Mouldy Old Dough on there?
Yeah.
Moldy Old Dough, yeah. So one of the great synthesizer records.
Get out there.
Do yourself a favour and go pick yourself up a copy of that.
See, you've picked it up for $1.99 back in the day.
Well, thank God I didn't pay $1.99 for it. No, but let's see. Do we have a year on this here?
Did you find it just lying in the street?
I can tell you that we had this LP in our collection when I was a kid. And I advise not to play the song Popcorn. If you have young children, you try and put them to sleep. Because it's one of those songs.
Yes.
It's like the William Tell Overture. It's for a young kid, it's just an invitation to dance.
Yeah. Totally.
Wow, and I've just seen on here that
Like
they
a
actually,
crazy frog of its day.
they
Exactly.
actually do a fantastic version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly soundtrack.
Yes.
as well. So
Jesus.
that just really adds to it. So let's go out and get yourself a copy of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're not giving
Alright.
that one away.
So, does someone want to set the scene for us as to these two bands? Like, what was the I guess the crux of their sort of conflict? Where did it
Well,
start?
I was in it. I was living it.
Yeah, well,
I was there.
well, maybe you're the guy to kick us
Maybe
off.
I
then,
can.
Kev.
You got the
I've got a
scars.
bit of a history. I've got scars.
Yep.
I've got jackets and photographs that you'd be ashamed to see anyone wearing. So I'll tell you, my story it starts with Blur, and they came out as a very different prospect. They released a single called "There's No Other Way." And it's a great pop single, like indie pop. It was just brilliant hooks, and we used to play it a lot in this wee house I lived in Edinburgh. And that was a long time before we heard of Oasis. And that's what folk forget, that Blur, out of the two, started earlier.
Well, wasn't it 91 or
longer.
something?
Blue was early 90s, 91.
Like that. Yep. And they were out there doing this very poppy, baggy thing, very much the baggy band with the shambling beat and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And weirdly, I got to see them supporting Jesus and Mary Chain, My Bloody Valentine, and Dinosaur Jr. as a part of a tour called Roller Coaster. And you would think, what are they doing there? And that's exactly what everyone in the room thought when they saw them. And Damon, when it was in his cups, as they would say, he was off his tree. Whenever they played, he was absolutely off his tree. I think shyness, really. Like, they were a new band, obviously in awe of everyone else, but they decided to be bravado and take their pants down quite a lot, which they did at the SEC in Glasgow. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Can we just get these idiots off and go on with some, earnest noise making? Which, obviously ensued. But it gave me a sense of, like, someone up there likes them, They must have something a bit more to them, because they really came out a bit like Radiohead with that first album, was a bit like, it doesn't really stack up with the rest, but you've got to come out with something, right?
Somebody saw some potential there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they became...
Had they released an actual studio album at this point, or was it just a sort of an EP and maybe a couple of singles or something?
Don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
Their first album... There was an album before Part Life, which was, I guess, the breakthrough one that became commercially successful, the classic Britpop thing. They were right in it. They had a couple of albums.
Well, they had 2 albums before Park Life, yeah.
Right, okay, yeah. And then Oasis started releasing things.
Yeah.
And that's where you came into the story.
Yeah, so I think what kicked it off was, so Blur had 3 albums, potentially 4 albums, before Oasis kicked off with...
Country House was the 4th one?
Yeah, so what happened was, so Country House was the single that they released off The Great Escape.
That's it, yeah.
And they actually... So they'd been hearing about... Well, there'd been this thing about, this is band Oasis sort of emerging, and they'd done a few gigs, so they didn't have any releases at this point, whatever, and they were about to release their first album. They'd had signed a contract, they'd gone to release an album. So their first single they were going to put out off that album was Roll With It. They had a date for the release of that single, and Blur had a date for the release of their single, and they were sort of separated. And then all of a sudden, the Oasis date moved forward to the same date as Blur. So essentially, what happened was Blur had a decision where Oasis brought their date prior to the brought their date forward before the Blur release. So essentially, Blur was left in a situation where they were going to release Country House, potentially a week after the Oasis single. Roll with it.
So get me right on this. Where Oasis, that wasn't their first single, so they'd already released things like Supersonic and other singles prior to that.
I don't know the full.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
Track
wasn't,
record
there was a rise up in popularity.
That was
so when they came out with that, when it got to the album releases,
That's it.
were really the things.
Yeah.
But they also had key singles from those albums released.
Yeah, they
around
were already
Christmas time, which is a big deal in the UK.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were already very popular, obviously, and they'd already had
And this was going to decide it, and the papers got involved.
So this is what I'm saying is this is what caused the initial.
I would suspect both record companies got involved as well.
Yes, yeah.
And there was a lot of talk at the time that they colluded to sort of, create this sort of dynamic of what was going to happen and this sort of, But to this day, they say no, it was just purely the Oasis's record company. I think they were with Ireland. Was it Ireland they were with? Or anyway, their record company brought the date forward. Blur had a situation where they could either release their record a week after and
wear the damage.
Because they were expecting this was Oasis was on the rise. They were so they decided to basically they coincided both singles released on the same day, and it became that essentially became the sort of the pivot point for this whole sort of Britpop, the competition between the two bands.
Yeah.
Blur,
and who won that? Who won that day?
Yeah, they sold about 60,000 more records or more singles than Oasis.
I'm a professional cynic, but my heart's not in it. I'm paying the price of living life at the limit. Caught up in the centuries, anxiety. Yes, it plays on him. Then try to sit wrong. Lives in a house, very big house in the country. Watching afternoon repeats and the food he eats in the country. He takes a manner of pills and piles up analyst bills.
They both sold I think Blur sold about 280,000 singles. Oasis sold about 220,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty poor effort for me.
So they were both some of the highest selling single.
Yeah.
It was almost like people talk about it and, I didn't live through it, but reading articles and things, people talk about it. It was almost like everyone just went out. It was almost like people were voting for their favourite, by buying records. It was that sort of, I think people were so...
I mean, the media whipped up a lot.
Yeah, of course, absolutely,
Well, they love that sort of stuff.
But it was like I think
it was like you picked a side, like
people were
classic
excited
rivalry.
that there was this such strong acts, I guess, again, popular, coming out of the UK, that could sort of take on the world, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I guess the record industry as a whole was
got very excited about it and sort of
that's
whipped it up.
The Britpop thing came from.
That's right.
Like, let's sell more records. It didn't come from any sense of like. The people involved with it, the people, who were draped in flags, have all distanced themselves as much as they could. There was a sound happening, but they didn't want to be nationalistic about it. There was none of that. It wasn't us versus them. But that was the funny thing, was that out of all of the classic Britpop bands, I wouldn't put either of those right in the pocket because Blur proved to be much more experimental and alternative, and Oasis were just way too much a classic rock band.
I think
to have that Britpop sound,
Yeah, Oasis, but it
was all of the time.
Oasis's management
of the genre.
tried to actually distance them from the whole Britpop scene because they felt they were a much more international band. They certainly had a more broad international sort of sound, whereas Blur tended to be more parochial and more of that Kinks vibe where it was more character driven and sort of talking about where it was local issues or like songs about certain characters or personalities. Oasis's songs tended to be more like it's almost like from the outset they wanted to be the biggest band in the world and wrote the types of songs that were sort of broad concepts, supersonic and all this sort of stuff.
Because wouldn't you say that broad appeal is Wonderwall, right? That's a song that just goes beyond that parochial. It's no, they're trying to write a rock classic there.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the key difference, I reckon, and you can say the same thing about Park Life. Massive appeal.
Yeah.
That was their single comparative on size of sales with Wonderwall and cultural impact. The difference is that Wonderwall was gibberish with a very basic musical premise.
Yeah.
Acoustic guitar, beautifully played. But
you
the
could say
words meant
universal
nothing.
appeal.
You absolutely universal. Couldn't deny that. But the Blur Part Life hit single, for instance, was really quite subversive. It's a great pop song, and it had lots of hooks.
Yeah.
But it was actually just ripping culture apart. The British culture of going across to Spain, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a distinction to be made there between the two as to who's got something to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
John's got brewer's fruit, he gets intimidated by the dirty pigeons. They love a bit of him. Who's that gut lord marching? You should cut down on your pork life, mate. Get some exercise.
All the people, so many people, they all go hand in hand through there.
I'm a big believer in dream pop and in not saying much in lyrics as well.
But you're right. That's the key difference, and that's again, it's that Kinks thing versus, the Kinks were always a band that talked about sort of very urban issues, and they made like Sunday Afternoon and characters, and it was about the English experience and what it was like. And Blur was like that. They carried that flame, and it was like sort of
particularly around that time. And this is another thing about those guys. They've had like 3 phases.
Oh, of course,
They went on to do like 10, 12 albums.
Sure,
they were still releasing albums sort of way into the late 90s, and critically those later albums were much more successful critically.
But I think you're right.
Than the ones in the pocket in those sort of very kinksy sort of Britpop-y times.
And I think they were more comfortable in that space where they weren't looking to take on the world. Like they weren't going, let's write some anthem that's going to sell a million records. They wanted to do things that were smaller and that they were interested
and interesting.
And interesting.
Is that an ego thing, do you think? Because it feels like, you can't deny the egos fronting Oasis.
Absolutely.
Or Blur, frankly.
There was ego on both sides, but
there's definitely
I think
chased down success.
Yeah.
But
I don't. Absolutely. I think there's ego, but it's sort of targeted in different ways. Like I think Oasis set out to be the biggest band in the world, whereas Blur probably set out to be a very interesting. Let's craft some great little nuggets of sort of English life and some great little melodies, and they certainly were much more experimental with melodies
which if you've ever seen a car advert or been to an American football game, song too. And now they did that song,
but that was later in their career,
out of exactly the type of song that
was like 5 albums in, so maybe at that point, and that's when they were directly competing with Oasis.
But that ironically became as much of an anthem, perhaps without their blessing, as anything Oasis has ever written, just because it had that hook right at the beginning. And I just thought that was really funny as well, just to make that.
It's a great song, but is that a result of them trying to directly then compete with someone like Oasis, or trying to think, do we want to try to branch out beyond?
I think that was as much parody and irony as it was anything to do with. You know what I mean? It's in an album.
And also just something different as well. I mean, if you... Like the sense that I got, because I only really listened to Oasis and Blur in the previous few days, a lot of it passed me by apart from singles. I didn't think much of either band. Apart from their singles, like when I heard other tracks, I was like, whatever. Listening to it now, it's kind of the same, except overall Blur has my interest more, and it's almost like they were deliberately avoiding writing the type of songs that were instantly accessible. Like there are some that are just incredibly complicated little shifts in sound and melodically to end up in a chorus. You go, whoa, how did we end up here? This is fantastic. And in some ways that reminds me of the Kinks, but also like Bowie. Would be, okay, we'll take a few side paths. So it's not like when I listen to Is it song 2? I listened to that. It doesn't surprise me that they could do it.
Yeah.
It was because it was like they're holding themselves back from doing it because it would have been so easy to do.
Yeah.
So it was it was nice to see that there was so much more to them than what I initially thought.
Yeah.
But when I listened to the Oasis first 3 Oasis albums, I was like, no, there's exactly what I thought was there, and it's not much. So.
Well, I'll tell you where I'm coming from, because we've talked about this a few times. I know Ben's a massive Oasis fan off the bat, but I really liked early Blur just because of There's No Other Way. But by the time they were doing He Lives in a Big House in the Country and that kind of stuff, they become like such a parody of British culture. Like it was dull. It was not their best album.
Well, I agree.
And that's what they competed against the singles that Oasis were putting out in their heyday, Cigarettes and Alcohol, Supersonic, you know, She's Electric, and they absolutely killed them when it was a rivalry. At the rivalry time, they were the better band, but over the length of time, Blur went out.
Yeah,
so it's kind of a mixed deal. Like if we were to do an episode called Fading Away or something, you know, about bands that, you know, just had a great start and then just tailed out. Oasis would have to be in it. We'd have to be idiots not to mention it in an episode like that. Like it's like they just went the great anthems. They went 2-3 albums. And then things just went.
Well, their first album,
no ideas now,
which I listened to again today, just knowing that we're going to do the show, I'd forgotten how sort of experimental it was, but not just experimental. It really had that sort of that Stone Roses sort of vibe. It had that early '90s British vibe.
It had an edge to it,
and that's
Supersonic. Was like
that's
pure
what
swag.
That's what I really liked. Blur's first album is really good, but then as they started to move into that sort of Kinks-ish vibe, it's very hard. Like some of those albums are hard to like. There's a lot of skip tracks in there. Like there's some great stuff in there, but there's a lot of like, I'll just skip that.
Part like as a single was really the other big one that was up against them at the time.
Some great singles.
Like, that was a sing-along one, but it was a bit dry. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I just don't think they ever could do that kind of thing, that Kinks-ish thing, as good as the Kinks did. Like I think, you know, that was for me. You know, and that's why I
think it's a testament to Damon and to the whole band really, but like it's a testament to the inventiveness and the creativity they had. Ultimately, was that they were able, as Al says, to throw in a song like Song 2, which was a great part of a great album, but also to like experiment with the songwriting up to a level of that King sort of reference. But just as part of a development phase.
I look at Song 2 and I think, well, I'm trying to think of another song on that album that actually would go, like I can't think of a single.
Around that time they were doing like things like Tender as the Night.
Well, that's on the next album. That was on 13.
Oh, okay, around that time.
Tender was on 13.
Yeah, but you get the idea. There was
but that's it. But like
songs,
I found that
they were more of an album band by that point.
Well, I didn't find that they were. I feel the opposite. I feel they weren't an album band anymore. I feel that by that time there was Tender. There was Song 2.
But maybe that
got hits off it.
The way that you appreciate what an album is. Like if you need it to be something that's packed with hits.
Well, it's not even packed with hits, but
that's one way of looking at it.
I can't think of, apart from The Great Escape, I can't think of one of their album and their first album, to be honest. I can't think of another album that I would just go, I'm just going to put that whole album on and not have to skip tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I don't listen to a lot of Blur. I really don't. But from what I understand, like critically, if you jump onto Pitchforks and stuff like that, you'll see that those later albums are much more applauded for their inventiveness and for their the different sounds.
They certainly tried different sounds, and look, full credit for that, absolutely. But for me personally, like I'll put on, certainly what's the story, Modern Glory, or I'll put on Dig Soul, even one of their latest albums, you know, like things like that, like, and they just play nicely across a full album. You know, there's a few albums in there which are a bit rough, no doubt. You know, some of the middle albums for Oasis are pretty rough, but they certainly had a good run of, you know, but for me, on average, the music's better, and you know, I feel it stands up better.
I found I had to skip both. Like listening to the first 3 of Oasis and 4 of Blur, there was still a lot of skipping with both of them, but at least with Blur I was interested for longer, and with Oasis there were more sing-along songs. But in between that, it was just like, this is so freaking noisy. It's just, you know, especially in, the first 3 albums. I don't know if the sound developed differently after that, but it was just.
And obviously, you know, obviously you're talking personal taste because I can appreciate the cleverness for Blur, but if I just want a bit of swagger, then, you know, if you're driving in a car and you want to go a little bit fast, you pop on your Oasis, right? If you're potentially just quietly listening to headphones, going to 7-Eleven to chat up the woman down there. But if you want to get a little introspecty, then you pop some Blur on.
I felt just from a cultural point of view too, like I just loved the whole, like the Gallagher brothers, like just the comment, like the one-liners and the comments.
It was a show. They're a show,
right? But Liam particularly,
they're a show.
Would just throw out, and that just created this, this aura around them that they just wanted to be rock stars.
There was a class thing as well, you know.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
they were the boys from Manchester, and
Blue were middle class
London boys,
right.
and you know, the crowds that you would get at an Oasis gig were very passionate Oasis fans, almost. Maybe they weren't really been music fans up until that point, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But they were waiting for something to be there for them.
Yeah.
And that's what Oasis brought. They brought a kind of a, you know, not a Beatles mentality, but they definitely wanted that level of homegrown, you know, passionate, you know, support. And
they gave everyone a soundtrack for their football rights.
For the football rights.
We have to do it. We have to do an episode on Manchester. I mean, how many great bands have come out of it? It's insane. Like, it's actually ridiculous.
So much to answer for.
Yeah.
The Fall, for instance, have you heard of these guys?
No. So tell us about the Fall.
No. Well, finally, after a couple of episodes, people get to drink. Yeah.
The challenge for me will be to do that episode and not mention the Fall. All right. Well, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I think clearly you've always talked about how much of an Oasis fan you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't realise till I started thinking about this that I love them both for completely different reasons. Yeah. But don't listen to either of them at all.
Sure.
Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
look,
a twist on it all.
And look, I still like Blur, and I like a lot of the. It's not that I don't like them, you know. But if it comes to if it came to the choice, you got to throw away your Oasis or throw away your Blur albums, then I'm gonna keep my Oasis albums. You know.
I'm keeping a few of those singles after Google. I couldn't live without Supersonic. You know. Yeah. And I would take that at the top of everything I've heard that either of them do. But that's a very simplistic way of looking at it.
And that has got to be one of Oasis's debut album. That has to be one of the strongest debuts of any band. Like,
but for my money, they did write a better song after that first song, whereas Oasis, Blur were the opposite. They got better with time, and they learned their craft. And Damon went off and done.
I would encourage you to look at some of Oasis's very last couple of albums.
Okay.
Because they did mature, and right before they broke up, those last couple of albums are actually. There's some actually really good stuff on there. It's worth listening to. Yeah, cool.
I found that Liam Gallagher's upcoming solo album. I understand he's got other ones, but this just popped up on Spotify after I was listening to Blur. Actually,
hey,
And one of the singles on there, like it starts off sounding a little John Lennon-y.
He's a massive Lennon fan.
Yeah, he is. But then it goes, into a different song.
More McCartney-ish.
Yeah, more McCartney-ish.
A little bit of Ringo.
Yeah, and which was great for me because I really enjoyed it, and I played it again straight away. Because the last that I'd heard of Liam was probably the 4th or 5th Oasis album or something, and he'd just obviously given up on trying to sing. His way through every song, and he's always had the raspy edge, but it was just like, that's it, he's given up in trying to develop his voice. Whereas this one, he's mellowed, his voice had mellowed out enough. So it's like, oh, cool, you've got just enough to make it interesting and rock and rolly, but not so much that I want to step in.
He's touring here just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's playing in Brisbane actually in a couple of.
So I think that's our next step. Is like live
what if he
reviews.
hears this?
Yeah. So we get down there, and we just like rip him to shreds.
We could interview him.
Oh, aye. Mark set
So what do you think about Blur? Loser.
Yeah, please don't
think
play
someone won't
Wonderwall.
ask him that question. That's the legacy of this rivalry, unfortunately, is that they'll never escape it either of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It'll always be there.
All right. Well, let's just have a quick whip around. Brett, who would you choose?
Oasis.
You're going to take Oasis?
Yes. Sorry.
Alan, you're going to take Blur, I imagine?
I'd take neither really, but
Neither.
Oh, you can't sit on the bloody fence,
You have
mate.
to take
okay, not neither. I'll take a bit of each.
one. You have to take one. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Take it from one, Al.
Take it from one. I want to take it from two. I'll have Blur.
All right.
I'm with Al. I'm going Blur.
You're going Blur. All right. Well, I'm going Oasis. So
We
it's,
split down the middle.
straight down the middle, just as it should be.
So we'll have to wrestle for.
All right.
That's right.
Okay. So we're going to stop the recording now and
arm
get out the
wrestle.
pit and we're gonna
arm wrestle. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Sorry, I meant arm wrestle. Yeah, that's
So, I'll put my shirt back on.
Put those baked beans away. But,
That's right.
all right.
Greco-Roman.
So we'll end it there. And thanks for listening. And please go on the Facebook page and tell us who you prefer out of Blur and Oasis.
We can do a poll.
Yeah, we'll do a poll. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Until next time, join us again on Lords of Loud. And don't forget to check out our website, lordsofloud.com, and also find us on Instagram and Facebook, both at Lords of Loud. Thanks for listening.